Picture a scorching Saturday afternoon in suburban Melbourne in 1975. Kids are smashing a tennis ball with a cricket bat in the street while their mum's pegging clothes on the hill's hoist. On the kitchen bench sits a loaf of tip-top bread, a bottle of Cottee's cordial, and a packet of Arnott's biscuits. In the evening, the family would visit a local drive-in cinema and then come back home for a proper Aussie family dinner. Nobody worries about screen time. Nobody carries a phone in their pocket. This was everyday life for most Australians in the 1970s. Back then, communities actually felt like communities. Neighbours knew each other by name. Kids roamed free, and entertainment meant getting together with real people in real places. Today, we've got more convenience than ever before. We can order dinner from our phones, stream any movie we want, and video call someone on the other side of the world. But somewhere along the way, we lost something essential. Today, we're diving into 17 things from 1970s Australia that we didn't just lose. We genuinely miss them, even if we didn't realise their value until they were gone forever. Every Australian suburb had its milk bar, and it wasn't just a shop, it was the beating heart of the community. These colourful little establishments were usually run by Greek or Italian immigrant families who'd arrived in Australia chasing a better life. Walk in on a Saturday afternoon and you'd find teenagers perched on red vinyl stools at the counter, nursing chocolate malteds and feeding coins into the jukebox. 20 cents. That's all it took to fill a paper bag with lollies. You'd stand at the counter, pointing through the glass at what you wanted. Redskins, Milkos, choo-choo bars, Fantols that came in proper boxes, not plastic. The shopkeeper would weigh them out, twist the bag closed, and hand it over with a smile. These places stayed open when everything else closed. They extended credit to families doing it tough, keeping handwritten records in ledgers behind the counter. But by the late 70s, supermarkets and service stations started selling the same stuff, cheaper. One by one, the milk bars closed their doors. Those vinyl stools and jukeboxes disappeared, taking a piece of Australian childhood with them. Australia went absolutely mad for drive-in cinemas. By the mid-70s, we had 330 drive-in theatres scattered across the country. That made us the drive-in capital of the world, right up there with America and Canada. Every suburb seemed to have one, and Friday night at the drive-in was the highlight of the week. You'd pile the whole family into the car, kids in pyjamas in the back seat, parents up front, maybe a blanket or two if it got chilly. Mum would pack thermoses of tea and sandwiches wrapped in foil. The entry price was per car, so sneaking extra mates in the boot became a teenage ritual. Everyone did it at least once. The ritual was beautiful. You'd arrive as the sun set, find your spot, and hook that metal speaker onto your car window. The sound quality was terrible, but nobody cared. Between the main feature and the second film, you'd head to the candy bar for Jaffas and Maltesers, maybe a Chico roll if you were feeling flush. By the 80s, video rental shops and rising land prices killed them off. Today, you can count the remaining drive-ins on two hands. But ask any Australian over 50 about the drive-in and watch their eyes light up. Summer in Australia meant one thing: cricket. Not organised cricket at the local oval, but proper backyard cricket that lasted from breakfast until the streetlights came on. Every Australian kid learned the game the same way, grabbing whatever bat was lying around and setting up stumps using wheelie bins, cricket wickets made from old wood, or sometimes just chalk on a brick wall. The rules were made up as you went. 6 and out. If you smashed the ball over the fence, you were out, but you got the 6 runs and had to fetch the ball yourself. 1 hand, 1 bounce. A catch counted if you grabbed it with 1 hand after a single bounce. No LBW because arguments over leg before wicket could end friendships. Tennis balls were standard equipment, often wrapped in electrical tape on one side to make them swing like proper cricket balls. You'd play with whoever showed up: brothers, sisters, kids from 3 doors down, sometimes even your dad after he'd had a few cold ones. Christmas Day and Australia Day weren't complete without a backyard cricket match after lunch. The whole extended family would play, from your nan to your little cousin who could barely hold the bat. It was chaos and competition mixed together, played under the blazing Aussie sun. The summer of 1979 stands out in memory. World Series cricket was reshaping the game on television, and every kid wanted to be Dennis Lilly or Greg Chappell. We'd spend entire days recreating matches, keeping elaborate scorecards, arguing over dubious catches. In 1974, something remarkable happened. The Whitlam Labor government abolished university tuition fees completely. Overnight, higher education became genuinely free for every Australian, regardless of how much money their parents earned. It wasn't a loan system or a discount, it was actually free. This changed lives. Kids from working class families in the western suburbs could suddenly attend university alongside the sons and daughters of doctors and lawyers. Your dad might be a tradie and your mum a cleaner, but if you had the marks, you could become an engineer, a teacher, or a lawyer yourself. The only barrier was ability, not money. Thousands of young Australians grabbed the opportunity. First-generation university students flooded lecture halls. The plumber's daughter became a doctor. The factory worker's son became an architect. Social mobility exploded in ways Australia had never seen before. The ripple effects shaped modern Australia. That free education system created the professional middle class we know today. It built a generation of teachers, nurses, engineers, and public servants who otherwise would have spent their lives in factories or on building sites, not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked cash. By 1989, fees came back under a different name. The HECS debt system replaced free education, and students started graduating with loans that took decades to repay. But for 15 glorious years, Australia proved that education could be a right, not a privilege reserved for those who could afford it. Kerry Packer changed cricket forever in 1977, and Australians loved him for it. Frustrated that Channel 9 couldn't get broadcast rights to Test cricket, he simply created his own competition, World Series Cricket. He signed the best players from Australia, England, and the West Indies, paying them properly for the first time in their careers. Everything about it was revolutionary. Players wore bright-coloured uniforms, not the traditional whites, under floodlights at night. Matches were fast-paced, designed for television, lasting hours instead of days. Cheerleaders performed at breaks. Instant replay showed controversial decisions. It was cricket meets American entertainment, and it worked brilliantly. The theme song became Australia's unofficial anthem. "Come on, Aussie, come on!" blared from every radio, every pub, every backyard barbecue. Kids sang it at school. Adults hummed it at work. Even people who'd never cared about cricket suddenly tuned in. Dennis Lilly became a household name, the fast bowler with the moustache who looked like he'd just walked off a building site. Rod Marsh behind the stumps. Greg Chappell with his elegant batting. Ian Chappell leading with that famous aggression. These blokes weren't just athletes, they were genuine working-class heroes representing everyday Australians. By 1979, Packer had won. The Australian Cricket Board surrendered, and Channel 9 got the rights they wanted. But cricket never went back. The changes stuck. Coloured clothing, night matches, aggressive marketing. World Series cricket proved that tradition could evolve without losing its soul, and it all happened right here in Australia during the 70s. Summer nights in December brought something magical: carols by candlelight. Started in Melbourne back in 1938, The tradition exploded through the 70s when it first broadcast in colour on Channel 10 in 1970, then Channel 9 from 1979. Suddenly, the entire nation could watch together on Christmas Eve. Families would gather at Sydney Myer Music Bowl or their local park, sitting on blankets with candles flickering in the warm night air. Real candles, too, not the battery-operated safety versions that came later. The smell of hot wax mixed with summer eucalyptus while thousands of voices joined together singing Silent Night and Oh Holy Night. Local councils organised smaller versions everywhere. Your suburb's park would have a temporary stage, maybe on the back of a flatbed truck. Local talent would perform alongside community choirs. Kids from the neighbourhood would dress as angels or shepherds for the nativity scene. On television, it became must-watch viewing. John Farnham, Gladys Moncrief, and other Australian stars would perform in front of a sea of twinkling lights. Families gathered around the TV, singing along in their lounge rooms. Everyone watching the same thing, at the same time, sharing the moment. The tradition continues today, but it's different now. More professional, more produced, more controlled. Back in the 70s, it felt spontaneous and genuine, neighbours singing together under the stars on warm Australian Christmas Eves. That beige or olive green rotary dial telephone mounted on the hallway wall controlled your entire household's communication with the outside world. One phone, one line. That was it. If someone was using it, everyone else waited. Teenage girls would monopolize it for hours, twisting that spiral cord around their fingers while dissecting every detail of who said what to whom at school. The cord would stretch from the hallway into their bedroom, sometimes getting so tangled it looked like modern art. Parents would hover nearby, making pointed comments about other people needing to make calls. If you were expecting an important call, you stayed home. Missing a call meant genuinely missing it. No voicemail, no caller ID, no way to know who'd tried to reach you. The anticipation was torture. Dialing itself took commitment. Each number required sticking your finger in the hole and rotating the dial all the way around. A wrong number meant starting completely over. Long-distance calls cost serious money, so you kept them brief and planned what you'd say beforehand. Some areas still had party lines, shared telephone lines with neighbours. You'd pick up the receiver and sometimes hear Mrs. Henderson from 3 doors down chatting away. Telephone etiquette meant hanging up quietly and trying again later. That single phone taught patience in ways modern life never could. Australian television in the 70s meant ABC, Channel 7 and Channel 9. Channel 10 had launched in 1964, but many regional areas still only had 3 channels. Colour television arrived in 1975, transforming everything into vivid Technicolor. That was your choice. 3 or 4 channels total. Families negotiated viewing time like diplomats handling territorial disputes. Dad wanted the cricket on Saturday. Mum had her shows during the week. Kids lobbied hard for Saturday morning cartoons or Countdown on Sunday nights. The TV guide from the newspaper was studied religiously. Missing a show meant missing it entirely. No recording, no replay, no streaming it later. If you had to go out during number 96 or The Sullivans, you missed that episode forever. At school on Monday, you'd be lost when everyone discussed what happened. This limitation created shared culture in powerful ways. When Australia played cricket, half the nation stopped to watch. When Graham Kennedy did something outrageous on In Melbourne Tonight, everyone saw it simultaneously. Monday morning conversations revolved around what everyone had watched together. The entire country moved to the same rhythm. We shared jokes, references, and moments because we'd experienced them at the same time. Modern streaming gives infinite choice, but fractures that collective experience into millions of individual viewing schedules. 6 weeks of Christmas holidays stretched before you like an eternity. No school, no structured activities, no adult supervision filling every hour. You simply left the house after breakfast and returned when the street lights came on or your mum yelled your name across the neighbourhood. Nobody organised your time, no swimming lessons, tennis clinics, or tutoring. Parents didn't drive you to playdates because playdates didn't exist. You walked to your mate's house, knocked on the door, and asked if they could come out. If they weren't home, you found someone else. Days were filled with swimming at the local pool where you'd spend hours bombing and diving. You'd build elaborate cubby houses in vacant lots using scavenged materials. Creek exploration meant getting muddy, catching tadpoles, and occasionally falling in completely. The trust was remarkable. Parents had no way to contact you, no mobile phones, no tracking devices. They simply trusted the neighbourhood to keep an eye out. Mrs. O'Brien next door would give you a biscuit if you looked hungry. This freedom built resilience and independence. You learned to entertain yourself, resolve conflicts without adult intervention, and navigate the world on your own terms. Modern kids get more structure and safety, but they've lost that precious sense of endless, unscheduled possibility that defined Australian childhood. The local corner store operated on trust in ways that seem unthinkable today. If your family was short on cash before payday, the shopkeeper would let you buy groceries on tick, on credit recorded in a handwritten ledger behind the counter. No credit cards, no credit checks, just personal trust based on knowing your family. These weren't chain stores with corporate policies. They were family-run operations where the same people served you year after year. The shopkeeper knew what brand your dad smoked, which bread your mum preferred, and that you always bought the same lollies every Saturday. Kids got sent to the shop with handwritten notes and exact change. 2 loaves of bread, 1 pint of milk, put it on the slate. The note might read. The shopkeeper would hand over the goods and make a note of what you owed. Come payday, your parents would settle up. Cash was king because cards didn't exist yet. If you needed to break a note, the corner store would sort you out. If you were 10 cents short, they'd wave it away or add it to your account. Everything was negotiable and human. The breadman still came around with his cart. The milkman delivered glass bottles to your doorstep each morning. This daily rhythm of small transactions built relationships that held communities together. Saturday mornings meant sport for every Australian kid. You'd pull on your footy shorts or cricket whites and head to the local oval where your entire suburb gathered. Dads lined the boundary, yelling encouragement. Mums ran the canteen, selling pies and cordial. Local clubs were the heart of communities. Everyone from your street played together. The doctor's kid alongside the tradie's son. After the match, you'd devour meat pies and orange cordial while replaying the best moments. Nobody needed gym memberships because sport was built into life. You played hard, learned teamwork, and built friendships that lasted decades. The club was where families socialised, where neighbours became mates. Today, sport costs a fortune and requires parental chauffeurs. Back then, you walked to training, paid minimal fees, and your fitness came naturally from actually playing instead of talking about it. Those Saturday mornings created communities, not just athletes. Sundays moved differently. Shops were legally closed, so families had nowhere to go except home or to relatives. This forced togetherness that modern life rarely provides. The day revolved around Sunday roast, lamb or beef cooking slowly while the house filled with that beautiful aroma. The whole family ate together at a proper table with the good tablecloth. Conversation happened because there was nothing else competing for attention. Afternoon meant going for a drive. Literally just driving around looking at things. Visiting your nan and pop. Maybe a walk in the park. Church attendance was still common, though declining through the decade. The boredom was the point. With nothing open and nothing to do, you were forced to be present with family. You talked, you rested, you existed without constant stimulation. Modern Sundays blur into every other day, shops open, errands to run, endless busyness. We gained convenience but lost that enforced day of rest. The Hills Hoist rotary clothesline stood in nearly every Australian backyard, an icon of suburban life. Mum would peg washing on it, and the clothes would dry crispy in the hot sun, smelling like fresh air instead of fabric softener. Backyards were actual living spaces, not storage areas for junk. Vegetable patches grew tomatoes, lettuce, and beans. Many families kept chooks for fresh eggs. Kids played in the dirt, built forts, climbed trees. Summer meant the sprinkler running for hours while kids ran through it screaming. Above-ground pools, those metal frame ones, filled backyards across Australia. Some older houses still had the outdoor dunny, though indoor plumbing was becoming standard. Adults would sit outside with cold drinks while kids played until dark. The backyard was where life happened: barbecues, cricket matches, birthday parties. Today's backyards are smaller, often paved, used mainly for storing bins. We've retreated indoors to air conditioning and screens, losing that connection to outdoor living that defined Australian culture. Record shops were cultural centres where music lovers gathered to browse, debate, and discover. Buying an album meant saving pocket money for weeks, then choosing carefully because you couldn't afford mistakes. The ritual was beautiful. You'd study album covers like art, read liner notes like literature, memorize every track through repeated listening. Sharing music meant making cassette mixtapes, hours spent getting the song order perfect, creating something personal for someone special. Radio DJs were tastemakers. John Peel introduced entire generations to music they'd never have found otherwise. Countdown launched every Sunday night from 1974, and everyone watched together, discovering new bands simultaneously. No algorithms telling you what to like, no endless streaming options creating decision paralysis. You heard a song on the radio, saved up, bought the single or album, and treasured it. Music felt valuable because access was limited. That scarcity made discovery exciting and made the music you owned genuinely precious. Summer in Australia meant living at the beach. You'd spend entire days in the water, body surfing until your arms ached and your skin turned pruny. Sunburn was a badge of honour. Nobody understood sun damage yet, so everyone fried themselves brown. The kiosk sold Sunny Boys, those frozen triangular cordial treats in orange, lime or raspberry. You'd suck on them until your tongue turned colours. Fish and chips wrapped in newspaper, eaten on the sand with seagulls circling overhead waiting for scraps. Surf life-saving clubs were community institutions where teenagers learned responsibility and belonging. The beach was where everyone was equal. Didn't matter if your dad was a lawyer or a brickie, everyone wore the same boardies and budgie smugglers. No mobile phones meant you were completely present. No photos to post, no calls to answer. Just sun, surf, sand, and mates. Beach culture defined Australian identity, and while we still love our beaches, something's been lost in the way we experience them now. Overseas travel was exotic and rare in the 70s. Most Australian families never left the country. It cost too much and seemed impossibly far away. If someone went to Europe or America, they'd talk about it for years. Holidays meant road trips to the coast or visiting relatives interstate. You'd pack the station wagon with everything, including the kitchen sink, and drive for hours. Every trip included stops at the Big Banana, Big Pineapple, or whatever giant roadside attraction was nearby. Caravan parks were holiday destinations. You'd set up in a cramped van or tent, use shared amenities, and consider it a proper vacation. Some families had the shack, a basic beach house, often without electricity, where you'd spend weeks each summer. No GPS meant actual paper maps and getting genuinely lost. No mobile phones meant if you broke down, you waited for help or walked to find a payphone. The limited world made experiences more special. Travel required commitment, planning, and saved money, so when it happened, it mattered deeply. Letter writing was how you maintained relationships across distance. You'd sit down with pen and paper, think carefully about what to say, then write it out in your best handwriting. Letters took days to arrive, so responses came weeks later. Pen pals were common. School programs connected Australian kids with others overseas. You'd eagerly await letters from strange countries, learning about lives completely different from yours. Aerograms, those thin blue airmail letters, connected families separated by oceans. Christmas meant writing dozens of cards by hand and posting them weeks early. Birthday cards from relatives always had a crisp note inside. Real money, not a bank transfer. The mailman's arrival was an event. You'd rush to the letterbox, hoping for something personal among the bills. Love letters got saved and reread until the paper wore thin. Postcards from friends on holiday actually mattered because they'd chosen you specifically to write to. Writing forced thoughtfulness. You couldn't delete and retype. You had to mean what you said because it was permanent. That deliberate communication created connections that quick texts and emails somehow never quite replicate. We gained so much. Technology that connects us instantly, convenience that saves hours, information at our fingertips, entertainment available anytime we want it. Modern life offers comfort and efficiency that 70s Australians couldn't imagine. But we lost something too. We lost the patience that came from waiting for things. We lost the community bonds forged when everyone shared the same limitations and experiences. We lost genuine presence because we're always half distracted by the device in our pocket. The question isn't whether those times were better or worse. The question is, what are we willing to sacrifice for convenience, and what should we fight to preserve? Because once those connections are gone, they're incredibly hard to rebuild.